Okay, today we're going to look at lesson 4, which is actually still part of section 4 in your textbook. This is part 2. So part 1 of section 4 was solving equations. Part 2 is solving equations for a specific variable. So in your other problems, you had a nice equation and it was all numbers, and then you had one variable, like you might have had all numbers and an x, all numbers and a y. And then you were solving for that one variable in the equation. Well, these are a little bit different because the equation is all variables, and you're told to solve for a specific one. So these are a little bit different. I'm going to give you some tips to make this a little bit easier. Okay, here are the tips. 1, treat the other variables just like constants. If you need to move an R, treat it just like a 5. Okay, we're going to treat the variables just like constants. Simplify. There are some instances where you might need to simplify. You can make the problem as simple as you can. Like, this shouldn't be a huge complex process. It's pretty simple, so keep it simple. And your goal is to get the specified variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. Okay, that's the goal. Just like when we're solving equations, our goal is to get the variable on one side and the number on the other. Okay, we're still getting that one specific variable on a side by itself. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do some examples. I'm going to do one with you and then give you two that are very, very similar that I want you to practice on your own. Okay, so we'll do that 3 different times. Okay, for our first example, we have C equals 2 pi r. That should be familiar. That's the formula for circumference. And we're going to solve for pi. Now, pi is not a variable, but it's a symbol, and we're going to solve for it. So this could be helpful to you in some instances. Sometimes it might not, but you can do it if you want. Pi is the thing I'm trying to get by itself, so I'm going to circle it because I need it to stay right there. Okay, so I need to get rid of the 2 and the r. So I need to look at the operations that are happening here. So we have 2 times pi and times r. So we've got multiplication. So if we're multiplying by 2, how can we get rid of a 2? What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. Now, before we move on, let's notice something. What operation is between pi and r? It's also multiplication, so the opposite of that is division. So we're going to divide by r as well. We know 2 divided by 2 divides out. R divided by r divides out. So the only thing that should be left on that side is pi. So we have pi on one side and c over 2r on the other. And so that's our final answer. Or you can turn it around if you want. You can say pi equals c divided by 2r. It's really up to you. Okay, here are 2 more examples, examples 2 and 3. These are very, very similar to example number 1. So pause the video, take just a second to give these a try, and then come back and check your answers with me. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time. You've got some answers on your paper so you can check. So number 2, we have D equals RT, and we're solving for T. So I'm going to circle T. That's what I need to keep. The only thing that's on the side with T is an R. The operation there is multiplication. We undo multiplication by dividing. Okay, those divide out, and we're left with D divided by R equals T. That is the formula for distance. Distance equals rate times time. And so if you do distance divided by rate, you should get the time. All right, so that's all for this one. All right, number 3, we have D equals ABC. We're solving for B. So this one is very, very similar to number 1. We're going to circle B. We want it to stay. We need to get rid of A and C. We're multiplying all the way across there, so we can do some division. We can divide by both A and C. We know those divide out on that side, and we're left with D divided by AC equals B. And that's your final answer. Okay. The good thing about these is most of the time there's nothing else to simplify. After you get that variable by itself, it's pretty straightforward. So personally, I think that they are less work than our usual equations that we have to solve. Okay, so that was your first type of equation that you're going to see. Now, the next kind is like number 4. So we have AB plus AC equals D, and we're solving for A. So this one's a little bit different because you have A here and here. So we're going to do the opposite of the distributive property. We're going to factor out the greatest common factor, okay? Now, that's a fancy way of saying we're going to take the A out of the expression. Okay, so both of them have an A, so I'm going to put it out front. So we have A. If we take the A out of AB, we're left with B. If we take the A... Okay, sorry about that. Just like in real school, the phone still rings. Okay, so as I was saying, if you take A out of AB, you're left with B. If you take A out of AC, you're left with C. And it is positive, so we keep our plus sign, and then it still equals D. Now, we're solving for A. So A is what we want by itself. So if you look, A is being multiplied to this quantity. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're dividing by the quantity B plus C. And if we do it to one side, we have to do it on the other. This is just like having 5 over 5. It divides out, and we're left with A equals D divided by the quantity B plus C. Okay? And that's your final answer. Now, I'm going to give you 2 more problems, very, very similar, that I want you to work on. And then after I write them, I want you to pause the video, try them on your own, and then come back and check them with me. So number 5 is UY plus UZ equals X. And I want you to solve for U. Okay, number 6, you have RS plus RT equals Q. And I want you to solve for R. So take just a second, try those. They're very, very similar to number 4, so you can follow the same steps there. And then come back and check your answers. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to give these a try. So number 5, we're going to do the same thing. They both have a U. Both terms have a U, so we're going to pull that out front, and we're going to put what's left in parentheses. So if you divide the U out of UY, you're left with Y. If you take the U out of UZ, you're left with Z, and that is a positive Z. That still equals X. We're trying to get U all by itself, so we can divide by the quantity Y plus Z. Those divide out, and you're left with U equals X over the quantity Y plus Z. And that's your final answer. Okay, number 6, same thing. We're solving for R, so we're going to pull the R out of those 2 terms, and we're left with S plus T equals Q. All right, we're trying to get R by itself, so we divide by the quantity S plus T. Those divide out, and we have R equals Q divided by S plus T. And that is our final answer. Okay, so this is your next type of problem that you'll see. We have A times the quantity B plus C equals BC, and we're solving for C. So you notice that we have C in 2 different locations. Here it's inside of the parentheses with an operation. Over here it's just being multiplied by B. In order for us to get C by itself, we have to simplify the expression first. So we're going to simplify it by using the distributive property. A times B is AB. A times C is AC, and that equals BC. Now, after we get here, we need to get the things that have C in it on the same side. So just like before in our solving equations when we needed to get all the x's on the same side, we need to do that same thing here. We need to get everything that has a c on the same side of the equal sign. So if you look at the left side, and if you need to, you can draw a line down the middle, if that'll help you. AB does not have a C, so we leave it. AC does have a C. We need to move it to the other side. It's positive, so we're going to subtract. So minus AC. So we have AB equals. Now, these are not alike. They both have C's, but one has a B and one has an A. So you have to leave them like that. So we're just going to write them down. BC minus AC. Now, since we have the C's on the same side of the equal sign, we can do what we did back in our last 3 examples. That C is common. So we're going to pull the C out front. If we take the C out of BC, we're left with B. If we take the C out of AC, we're left with A. And that is a negative A. So we have that in parentheses, and that equals AB. Now, we're still looking for C. So C is being multiplied to this quantity, so we can divide by that quantity. Those divide out, and C will be by itself. So I'm going to have to come over here. So C is left on one side of the equal sign, and on the other side we have AB divided by B minus A. And so that's our answer. And that's a little bit more work than the others that we've looked at, but you're going to follow that same pattern every single time. So distribute, look at the variable you're trying to find, get everything with that variable on one side of the equal sign, factor out or divide out that variable you're wanting, do some division, and you have your final answer. Okay, here are your last 2 examples. 8 and 9 are very, very similar to example number 7. So pause the video, take just a second to try these on your own, see what you can do, see what you can get, and then come back with me to check your answers. Okay, hopefully you've had time to check your answers, so let's see what you should have. So like we said on example number 7, the first thing that we need to do is to distribute. So R times S is RS, R times T is RT, and that equals ST. Now, we're solving for S, okay? We're solving for S. So we need everything with an S to get on the same side. So ST is already on the right. So I'm going to move the other term that has an S to the right. So that's a positive RS. So I'm going to subtract it. And we're left with RT equals ST minus RS. Now, we're solving for S, so we need to get that S out of those terms. So we're going to reverse the distributive property. We're going to factor out that common term. So if we have an S, if we take the S out of ST, we're left with T. If we take the S out of negative RS, we're left with negative R. And then on the other side, we still have RT. Again, we're trying to get that S all by itself, and we're multiplying. So we can divide by the quantity T minus R. Those divide out, and we're left with RT over T minus R equals S. Or you can turn that around and have S equals this quantity. Okay? Number 9, we're going to do the same kind of thing. So first we're going to distribute. So XY plus XZ equals YZ. And we're solving for Y. So we need all the Y's to go to one side. So I'm going to move my XY over here with YZ. Okay? So minus XY. And I've got XZ equals YZ minus XY. Again, I'm looking for Y. So I've got to pull the Y out of those 2 terms or divide them out. So YZ, if I divide out the Y, I'm left with Z. Negative XY, if I divide out the Y, I'm left with negative X. And then on the left, we still have XZ. So we want that Y by itself, so we divide by that quantity. Or, did you catch that? I accidentally switched these around here. Do you think that makes a difference? Yes, it does, because the negative is with the wrong quantity. So let me fix that. So z minus x, right? Those divide out, and we're left with y equals xz divided by z minus x. And that is our final answer, okay? So you've seen 3 different types of equations where you're solving for a specific variable. I want you to use these examples for your Math Excel work. Make sure you have these examples written down. Remember, you can pause, rewind, do whatever you need to do, but make sure you get all of the notes copied down. Oh, so sorry. All right, and again, if you have trouble or need help, make sure you let me know. I'm here to help you with whatever you need. Have a great day.